everyone. It is Julianne Meyer, host of Own Your Wellness, and I'm back again. And guess what? For those of you who watched on Monday, you realized we had some technical difficulties. So I decided the best bet was let's have my guest back when we can actually talk to each other, because he is amazing. And I have so much fun speaking with him. And I know that you're going to get value upon value just by being in this conversation. So without further ado, I'm going to reintroduce my friend, Alex Mill. Hey, Alex, welcome back.
Again. Deja vu.
So much better. Good. I'm so glad, though, that you were able to do this, because you mean the world to me. And for those of you that were not watching last time, we did have some technical difficulties. So we decided we'd try this again. And it seems to be working now. So yay, this is good news. Exactly. So let's just start out with the same question that I asked you last time, which was, could you tell our audience a little bit about you? I happen to know you better than some because you were my coach, but I would love for you to share a little bit about you and what you think is interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me on your show, Julianne. I'm actually not alone at the moment. I just have a friend come join me. I don't know if you can see Jack joining me. So
wants to play.
Yeah, he crashed the show. So
that's so awesome. Dogs are the best.
Yeah, so I just wanted to put that out there first, because if my hand is doing something funny over here, I just want people to know that I'm petting a dog. He's like, what is he up to over there? So,
yeah, it just looks like.
What is he doing?
I don't hear
on the side. So, So people tend to know me from what I ended up doing, which was I ended up training in a Zen monastery for 14 years. And when I came out, I started to do everything I can, do everything I could to help people with putting to rest and putting into perspective this nonstop chatter that goes on in our heads. It was one of the things that was huge for me that I picked up when I was training there. And it's really the heart of Zen meditation, which is the meditation practice that we did while I was there. It was training our attention to be able to stay where we want it, because what I discovered was that where our attention goes, so goes our life. And so it's so important to be able to master this thing, because it is oftentimes, if not most of the time, if we're really honest, constantly going this way, that way, and all over the place. And if it's being in control of where we're looking and what we're doing and what we're thinking and what the choices we're making, then it has the potential to limit us, to wreak havoc in our lives. And so I knew that I wanted to share what was most important for me. And that was the place that I typically start with people when I share the work that I learned there. Because until you get an understanding of what you're up against, most people just feel like it's themselves thinking, and it's really challenging to break through anything that you actually want to create in your life, because that's the next step. The next step after seeing through it is to start tapping into who you authentically are, and to be able to, I say I want to do something like create a show like you did, then you have the wherewithal within yourself, that relationship with yourself, to see through any resistance that comes up. Because, let's face it, as you're going through life, all this limitation is constantly going. When I do this, this is the voices in our head. They're constantly saying, you can't do that. Who are you to do that? No one's gonna, and you and everybody else is already. And it's just such a negative force in our lives that stops us from doing so many really amazing things. And so the next step is to really just have this powerful relationship with ourselves, in which we do for ourselves what we sometimes really easily do for others. I joke around about how we're kinder to, the greengrocer or people that we just don't even know than we often are to ourselves. And I think that's the crux of what I learned while I was training. And it's what I do now that I've come out of the monastery. As you know, I've written a bunch of books because I just write about. There's one. I haven't liked that one. Yeah, one of my favorites too. Yeah, thank you. I think that's how we met. You found that one in a Barnes and Noble bookstore, and then you reached out and contacted me. That was really cool. But anyway, yeah, that's what I did when I came out. I started writing a whole bunch because I wanted to share, like I said, what was most useful for me. And I never wanted to be a teacher or a guru or somebody that people are going to be going to get advice or be told what to do, simply because that's not really what we did while we were training at the monastery. We never got anyone telling us what to do. I mean, I'll take that back. I had lots of work assignments where I was told to go to the kitchen and work in the kitchen, but you know what I mean, right? It's not about the advice. It's about the guidance and the direction and the inner looking to see where are we coming from when we make decisions in our lives. And that's what I had when I was training at the monastery. That's the support I had. And it's a lot of what I do now that I'm out.
Yeah. Well, something that, you actually really helped me with that, and to not identify with that little bully, that voice that was in there. And I made friends with her. Now I call her Little Julie. It's okay, Little Julie, slow your roll. You need to calm down. It's okay. Thank you for protecting me, but that doesn't help me anymore. But the thing that I've discovered is that, in our society, we are taught to look outside of ourselves for all of our answers. So, ask the teacher, go to the judge, whatever the case may be. But if you can quiet your mind down, you can hear your own answers. And that's one of the blessings that I've been able to receive from working with you, was that knowledge and that inner knowing, being like, okay, time for me to calm down and have a conversation with me.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. Yes. Yeah.
So what would you say most people struggle with the most when they are trying to learn to meditate?
Okay. So when they're learning to meditate, the biggest thing they have struggle with, I would say it would be doing it consistently, doing it, right? Because, the irony of meditation, and say a lot of people think, let me just be clear. Let me backtrack. Just to be clear that when I talk about meditation, I am only talking about Zen meditation. It's the kind that I discovered when I first started. It's a mindfulness-based meditation practice, and it's the only one that I've continued to keep doing after all of these years. So I'm over 2 decades worth at this point of time doing this one type of meditation practice. So meditation blankets the full range of different types of experiences, from putting on headphones and listening to binaural beats to laying down and leaving your body and traveling the astral plane, you know what I mean? Or staring at a candle at the exclusion of everything else, or repeating a mantra. And it just goes on and on and on. And so I just want to be really clear when I say that meditation, I'm talking only about Zen meditation. So with that said, now I can talk about, the things that people struggle with and the point of Zen meditation. So strictly with Zen meditation, the point, and mindfulness-based meditation, it isn't really, there are some practices out there that say, you quiet your mind or shut it off or do all this stuff. But in Zen meditation, you don't do any of that kind of stuff. Like, you don't do anything with the mind. So, I alluded to it earlier, where your attention goes, so goes your life. So when I'm sitting down on this cushion, that when I sit down to meditate on, this is my little dojo. This is where I, my sparring area with the voices. So, because the voices are like magnets, they're like Star Wars fans are a tractor beam. They just pull our attention out of the moment and into the past, the future, what's wrong with me, what's wrong with them, what's good, what's bad, everything that it just goes all over the board. This is where we struggle. We just are so distracted, and we get our information from are the voice that's constantly telling us about who we are, our identity. And it's just so hard to see through anything else. So that's what I do when I sit. I'm bringing my attention back over and over and over again. It leaves, come back, leave, come back. And why I say that consistency is so challenging in meditation is because that voice is not going to be pleased with you taking charge of your life instead of it being in charge of your life. So if you're able to direct your attention and choose for yourself what you want, then you put it out of a job. And so it is constantly going to do everything in its power to sabotage you. It's going to interpret the instructions. It's going to, even if the instructions said, I'll get this all the time. I'm doing a workshop on Zen meditation. All I'm telling people do is bring your attention back here. It wanders, come back. And they'll say something like, I can't clear my mind. I'll say, none of the instructions included clearing your mind. So the voices will do everything in their power to discourage you from A, doing it, B, feeling like, it's a worthwhile thing to keep doing, remembering in quotes, right? It's like, it'll magically disappear somehow. It'll say you don't feel like it. There are more important things to be doing than meditating. There are people hungry. There, whatever. It's endless. And, I have people in my 30-day online retreat right now. And this one guy, he just said to me, he said, oh, I had so much resistance to do this exercise. But when I finally did it, I had such an incredible experience of peace and well-being. And it was extremely cathartic. And I just wrote back to him and I said, yes, that's exactly what we're doing. We're seeing how the voices create this illusory wall of fire that we need to step through. Illusory is the key because we don't want to step through a real wall of fire. No, it's an illusory wall of fire. But every time we step through it and we have an experience that's positive on the other side of it, right? Mm-hmm. That's what we're doing with the meditation practice, is seeing through the resistance, practicing, meditating anyway, doing everything we can in our power. This is another part of the 30-day program, as we support ourselves through everything that we want to do. And so I do whatever I can in my power to set it up that I am successful for this meditation practice. So I say 5 minutes, not half hour, not an hour. You don't have to climb to the top of the Himalayas to meditate. You don't have to have a nice, everything all right, perfect. You don't have to even have people stop jackhammering in the streets. 5 minutes, whatever's going on, put it on your calendar, right? Do everything you can to support yourself to do this thing. And if 5 minutes is too long, make it 2.5 minutes. I don't care. But at a certain point, you're going to get it that, hey, what is it with this voice that's telling me that I don't have even 5 minutes or 2.5 minutes or 30 seconds to do this? And that you're going to get to see exactly how controlled we absolutely are. So anyway, that's my spiel on the resistance that comes up to meditation. And there's way more, but that would be the biggest one, is just doing it.
Yeah, no, that's so true. It really is. And then, the voices for me was always like, well, it's only 5 minutes. It doesn't really matter. It's only 5 minutes.
You can't win with it, right? What good are you going to do?
Fighting me all the way, every which way. I was like, pew, pew.
That's right. And because it's so smart, it picks up on the language of practice, right? It sounds like your best friend. Like, you come back from work, you say you want to meditate when you come back from work. It'll say, oh yeah, it's such a hard day. What would really take care of you is a bag of chips and a tub of Ben and Jerry's in front of the tube. And it's like, bye meditation practice.
Well, one of my personal favorites is TV. So, and I don't mean it's my favorite thing. I just mean that I would sit there and watch it endlessly. And yet I wouldn't want to spend 5 minutes meditating, because that would a waste of time just sitting there doing nothing.
The irony.
Okay.
Yeah, that's good. That meditation. Oh my God, it's so radical. I don't know. I can't trust it.
No, you just sit there? I mean, like,
I could be brainwashed while I'm meditating. There's a commercial that just went by trying to sell me something.
I know, right? I know.
Bump.
So, a lot of people are struggling nowadays because of COVID and, well, especially I'm in California, as you know, everything's pretty locked down still. A lot of people aren't following the rules, so there's a lot more open than actually should be. However, if you're somebody like me who has clients that can, I could transmit this to, I'm a lot more careful.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing that I hear over and over and over again is that, I can't do this or I can't do that, or, people haven't learned to accept where they are right now and make different choices. So what would you say to someone that, say, is struggling with loneliness, for example?
Loneliness.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, there are a lot. I mean, I like to, what I do really well, I'm just going to brag a little bit, but what I do really well is when I interact with somebody, I get really specific about what's going on, because people will say that I'm experiencing this or I'm experiencing that, but then I start to go a little bit deeper and I start to find out, okay, well, what are you being told? Right? What are the voices actually saying to you? What are they talking you into doing? Like, what's your typical day look like? Mm-hmm. And so I would go further with them into their experience. And so if someone were to come to me and say that they're lonely, I would want to find out, well, what do you mean by that? Right? Like, so is it just that you're literally alone in a room by yourself? And, I had a conversation with someone about the distinction between being alone versus lonely. Mm-hmm. And, what I would start to do, start to help them. It's one of those things where we find ourselves in a situation where it would have been really good to have the practice that I had when I trained at the monastery and that I teach, and to have all of these support structures in place so that when something like what's going on in the world right now happens, people have the tools they need in order to be able to face what's going on. But right now it's kind of like, I don't know how to swim and the Titanic is going down in my world, right? I mean, I really feel for people, you know what I mean? It's like, this is okay. So here's the catch-22 and the irony, or the whatever in all of this, is that it is technically probably the worst time to learn this kind of thing, because you're in survival mode. There's like, don't tell me about patience. I can't be patient through this. I need to have skills in order to be able to do it now. And it's also the best time to do it, because we are the most motivated right now to learn a skill like this, because when things are going really well, who cares, right? I got all these things that are going really well to focus on. I don't need to do any kind of, spiritual practice or growth or personal development or anything like that. So while it's the worst and the best time, we have to, what I say to people who are going through something challenging at this time is, do the best you can with what you've got right now, and take really small steps to build up the support structure in place within you, so that when something like this comes around again, you are not unprepared and going down for the count. And so I know I'm kind of skirting around the loneliness thing, but that's
not really.
Well, that's because it's like, loneliness is a symptom, or is something going on for something else, and I'm trying to address it. See, because alone is a technical fact. I'm here in this room. Well, I'm not alone. Jax is here with me. So, but if he wasn't, I would be the only being in this room, and I am alone. I am by myself. Lonely, however, is a conversation I'm having about how I want it to be, or how it ought to be, or what I'm feeling about how it is. And I'm not suggesting that any of that is wrong, right? So if you're feeling, if you have all of this going on, you haven't been taught how to redirect your attention back to whatever would help you get perspective on your situation, and A, change it if you want to, or B, be okay with the situation as it is. It's like one of my favorite phrases that I, use when I'm working with people. It's, to help yourself accept exactly as you are. And this is the big one, and help yourself create anything that you want and whatever you would like. So it's not like, okay, I'm in this really horrible situation, I just need to suck up and deal with it. That's not it. That's not acceptance. Acceptance is being really clear about what's here. And so it gives us a firm foundation so that we can step off and create something, do something, see something, say something that is actionable out in the world from a place of center, from conscious, compassionate awareness, what's best for all. But that's not available to us until we start to do some of this work. You know what I mean? It's like, it's a frustrating part, but
it is. Yeah, it is. No, it's easier though. Like if you can practice your skills when you're not in crisis, then it becomes secondary nature. So when you are, it's just you automatically do these things to take care of yourself.
Right.
I get it. Exactly. But most people don't want to practice because everything's great.
I know. Yeah. It's like, it's the, this is why there's a lot of people who talk about suffering is a good thing, right? Yeah. Like, because it's the thing that you have to overcome in order to reach wherever it is that you need to go to. I would say that that's only half true, right? So when I was training at the monastery, we had an expression that was something along the lines of, people come to practice for one of two reasons. One, it's the most intelligent thing to do, right? It just makes sense to practice, right? Like my attention is the source of my happiness and my well-being and my experience of peace and full creativity. Why would I not want to master it? So yeah, there's that. But then the other half of it is having suffered enough. Sometimes people don't do the practice until they've suffered enough. And that's why it's not really a requirement to practice. That's why the Buddha said suffering is optional. It's like, no, suffer all you want. Go through whatever. I mean, it's kind of like, sounds really horrible, but it's really not. It's like, it's back to not being told what to do, right? I'm not telling you to end your suffering. I'm just telling you that if you should choose to one day do this for yourself, then there is actually a way to do it. And only when you're ready. It's like that old commercial, I'm going to date myself, but no wine before it's time, right? It's like, so. Anyway.
Oh, that's funny. No, I love that. Something that's interesting that's been happening with me is, I don't ever want to say that what's going on in the world isn't, tragic for certain people and that it's not a hard time. But for me, it has been fantastic. And I have grown a lot. I'm not saying I'm comfortable in all this growth or anything silly like that, but I can see in the world, sometimes it's your mirror, and I can see how I've been being in my own life because I can see it in other people, and it's eye-opening. And it's so much fun to choose something different now as opposed to, just like, that's my personality and that's a load of poop.
Yeah.
That's not, you don't have to get stuck in a label or anything like that. You can choose to be whoever you want. And I just love though that, that whole, and I use this one a lot, but actually I'm going to say something different instead. So I used to struggle up until recently a lot with driving and getting angry at the driver in front of me. I would just like let out my internal anger that was in there or whatever and be mad at the person who was deigned to go too slow in my opinion or something like that. And
Uh-huh.
all of a sudden I just decided, that doesn't work for me. And that's not how I want to show up. And it's pretty much gone. And nothing's changed except my perception. So there's
Yeah,
always
right.
time. You can always change that.
That's right. If you don't see it a certain way, then it just doesn't occur to you any longer.
Mhm.
And that's really the fun part of seeing what's up for you at any given moment is like,
Yeah.
wow, I used to do this, that, and the other thing, and now I no longer do that anymore. That's
Yeah.
very interesting.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the reasons why I really like your books and just your writing in general is because you tell stories about yourself that anyone can relate to, even though you spent so long in a Zen monastery. Not a lot of people can relate to that particular detail. However, just the stories about like picking up trash or,
Yeah.
beans. And I mean, they're gonna have to read what I'm talking about to understand. But I just laughed because I could totally see myself responding that way to certain things. And
Totally.
I love that you have this ability to take the sting out of being yourself. Like I
Yeah.
tend to, one of my things has always been that I tend to take myself a little too seriously at times. So being able to see that now, it's like life's so much more fun when I'm not trying to be perfect.
Yeah. There's a lot in everything that you just said. And it's the distinction that I would make around a lot of the inner experience versus the outer experience, like feeling immense, rage at people as you're driving and then vocally expressing that. And then there's also, right, like the shifting of the inner experience. It's I want people to know that there's like one of two places that it can come from, where you're completely caught up in the story of what's going on and lost in it. And then they're seeing it. And then, spiritual practice or personal development has got this kind of like Pollyannish kind of feel to it, where it's like, I'm always happy. There's just rainbows and unicorns. I actually, my poop is very colorful and all this kind of stuff. And it's just got this kind of like quality to it that can be really challenging for some people to associate with. And like the place that I would get to with it is that it's not that we don't express or experience emotion. See, when I work with people, it's about the full gamut. I don't want people to get to a place where because you just said something really profound too with the perfect part, right? It's like perfection can actually be helpful to people. It's just that when it gets in the hands of the voices, it uses it to beat us up. Perfection can also be a really powerful attribute that helps you design. Like I'm looking at the space you've designed for yourself, in your channel and everything like that. Like perfectionism has gotten this kind of negative rap to it, and maybe there's just like language where it's the subtle shades of things, like attention to detail. Like, oh, well, that's, you just have a very lovely attention to detail, but being berated because you didn't do a good enough job. I think that's what we talk about when we talk about perfectionism, right? And who wants any of that crap, quite frankly, right? It's so and they're like, comparison is the thief of joy. And I'm like, well, no, it's not. It's only a thief of joy if you allow the voices to beat you up over it. If you use comparison to help you see where you are and where you want to be, then it's very informative. And so what we're talking about are the voices in your head, is the ego in charge of your life experience with whatever it is that you're doing, or is the compassionate inner mentor in charge of your experience and how you're seeing the world? Because those very traits and qualities that we're describing can be useful to you, because there's a time and a place where speaking loudly and having veins bulging out of your head can be really useful to convey a message across to somebody without you being completely wrapped up in. My teacher had incredible skill at visually and physically looking angry. And she got that from her teacher actually too. Her teacher would do the same thing where you may think I'm very angry, but I'm just being enthusiastic. And it's like, that's because he knew how to, and she knew how to be present with an expression that would get the result across that would be most useful. Some people need it in order to get the need the information and the get the point across. Other people just need the whisper, they just need the, hey, can you do that for me? And they're like, oh yeah. Anyway.
No, that's a very good distinction, because not everything's, it's that black and white thinking. I love that you mentioned that about perfectionism in particular, because you knew what I was trying to say and you were able to articulate that so well, because it is important. It's not necessarily a bad thing. It just depends on how I'm using it. If I'm like,
consciously using it. Yes, exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Perfect.
Well, we do have to go to commercial break. So we're going to be right back. Alex, thank you so much for joining us again, and we'll be right back. So now you guys know I'm a little fangirl about this man, because I don't know why, just because he's made such a difference in my life, and I know that he will, and I know that he does in so many others. But before we go to commercial break, I do want to say thank you for all of you who watched the last time we tried to do this, and also today. And I'm so glad that you can actually hear everything he has to say this time without it being funny sounding. But we will be right back after these commercials. Hey everyone, we're back again. So I don't want to waste any time just chatting all by myself on the screen. I'm just going to bring Alex back and continue the conversation.
Hey Alex. Hi, welcome. Oh, I don't get to say welcome back to everybody else. They were already here.
Oh, you can.
Cool.
So I'm curious. Do you have, this is one of my favorite questions to ask people, is do you have certain rituals or routines that you do on a daily basis to refill your cup of self, shall we say? Sure.
Yeah, no, I actually do. Did you want to have all of them, or?
Whatever you want to share.
Yeah. Meditation is the first thing to greet me in the day. So as soon as I get up, I go off and meditate, and then let's see, take Jax out for a walk. I think everybody's met Jax. Jax is over on the other side of the room now, and then we come back, and I tend to make myself breakfast. really big fan of a superfood smoothie person. Yeah. My whole life is transformed by this author. So what's that? I can share?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Julie Morris. Yeah. She's actually from your part of the world, actually, I think. I think she lives in California, but yeah, I got a superfood smoothie cookbook in 2019, and I made almost every single one of them in that book. And I was talking about how I would make a different one every day, but she has this oatmeal recipe that I've been making now since before COVID began, and it's just remarkable. Anyway, I make that for myself before I go work out. I have a workout routine. And then I have my breakfast and my shake, and then I head off to do the work that I do, which is coach people, and also I have 3 online programs. I don't know, maybe you know that I have 3 at this point. I think when we met, I had 1 going, Heart to Heart Compassionate Self Mentoring, and then since then I've put together 2 more after that, and so.
Wow.
Yeah, so I've got students from like all over the world. I got a guy from South Africa right now. I have somebody in the Netherlands. There's a guy in France. Funny, I have more people off in other countries than in the United States. Funny how that is. I had somebody actually in Arizona, so that's not necessarily true. We just finished up one of the retreats. But anyway, it's just so cool. I just go in and I respond to people, and then I work with people, and that's how I spend my day. And that's my ritual pretty much. And I was writing for a long time as well. Like I would write something every day. And yeah, that's how I ended up with seven books, is that I would just write every day. And all of that ended up turning into a book. Yeah, like magic. It turned into something. And so, but those are my rituals pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I love that, because one of the guests that I had on recently, I'm trying to remember who it was. Oh, John Kovacs Jr. Anyway, sorry, it was the last before you. And he was talking about how routines are one thing, but if you make it a ritual, then it's not a have to. It's just something.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh no. These are definitely not. These are not have to's. It's something that I picked up at the monastery. It's like, we must care for the goose that lays the golden eggs. You know, it's like we can't. I mean, it's not a. It's only a should to this, right? This is like what we talked about earlier with the TV, right? This takes care of this, and it just doesn't. It's just so not interested in any of this. That's why it's so important, like I was suggesting, to do the inner work, because the way the voices work, they love to talk us into doing that which is unhelpful and out of doing what would be helpful. And so this is where the expressions, I beat myself up or I'm my worst enemy come from. And it's the misunderstanding, because we don't actually do this to ourselves. Like I fully understand that when you say you want to do something because it would take care of you, that who I'm talking to, who is saying that's who you really are. And everything else is what you're up against, is the voices that are believable, the resistance that's promising a certain outcome that it just never does. And so that's really the work, is seeing through the lie and choosing the alternative. And you have enough experiences of choosing the alternative, it gets easier to do it. But that's why, so the reason why it's a chore is because the voices are saying it's a chore. Whenever you finish doing something that really feels good, I had some guy in my retreat, he talked about one of the habits he switched was cooking himself a nice meal. Voices tried to stop him from cooking this really nice meal for himself. When he finally did it, he said the experience was just phenomenal. And what I said to him is that, you keep having the phenomenal experience, you keep having the payoff be more powerful than what the voices are telling you the the lie gets eclipsed by the truth, and only until you have that experience enough times will you actually start to naturally choose that which supports you, and it stops being a chore anymore. It just starts becoming the way you live. And I think seeing through it is the most powerful thing. A lot of times people talk about powering through it, and it's just seeing the lie for what it is, and then getting really present to it. Like, oh my God, I can't believe I believed that, right? But that's, whenever somebody says that, that means they saw it for what it was. And that's huge. That's huge. Anyway, that's me ranting.
No, I love that, because I notice too, when I see myself, I catch myself noticing these things, there's no judgment about it. It's kind of like, just, wow. That's interesting.
It is interesting.
Okay, now I see it.
Yeah, exactly. And even the judgment is, this is the thing that constantly blows people's minds, is even the judgment is useful, because if you see through the way it talks to you and beats you up and talks you out of doing the thing, that's useful too. Like, we spend the first part of the retreat I'm talking about just constantly unearthing everything that tries to stop you from doing the thing. Like, there's an exercise, how did it talk you out? Like, procrastination is a huge thing. I'll put off doing the exercise till later in the day. I don't care if you procrastinate. The point isn't to do it right away. The point is just to pay attention to everything, and seeing through how it works is the ticket to freedom with it. I just see so much about, like, just, like, okay, I'm going to put an end to the negativity. I'm going to put it under the carpet. I'm going to sweep it away. I'm going to let it go. The letting go is the positive spin on it, right? I'm going to just do all this stuff with it. And, I don't even really hear many people talking about it this way, but I spend a whole lot of time knowing everything I can. I tell people, become the foremost expert on the resistance you experience. Learn everything you can about it. I called this my meditation cushion the dojo, right? That's who I'm sparring with. And if you're going to be like, so if you're going to go professional with this, you want to know who you're sparring with, right? So if like, if you had a physical person you were going to be wrestling with or doing some sort of, actual duking out with, you want to know, is their right hook, is that their pick, is that how that's how they knock people out the most? So you want to find out, what is it that the voices get you with? Learn everything you can about it. And the more you see about it, the less believable it becomes. And that's your strength, is the awareness practice. And in that paying attention and that seeing it as a game, it becomes this fun way of turning the tables on it. It hates it. It would rather you be in battle with it, right? Because then you're admitting that it's real, and it's like, when all you have to do is see how it works. Once you see how it works, then you just go, and you look over here. And that's why I called it a shift to love, because it literally is a shift away from this force to what would actually serve you, all of life.
Yeah. Well, the thing too that I hear from you, and that, is something that I'll probably, it comes up from time to time still, but it's like, there's nothing wrong with any of this. There's nothing wrong. It just is what it is. It's not something you have to fix. You have to beat it down and get rid of it or anything. It's just a matter of seeing and acknowledging and choosing.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Like, one of my favorite metaphors is like, the room is completely dark. I keep falling into a hole. That's because I don't see it. I'm not aware. I don't pay attention. If you were to compare it. And then the awareness practice is nothing more than the light turning on. And then the hole, you don't have to effort your way around it. You just do it, or you're just not going to fall into it, because it's the most intelligent thing to do. That's where the choice that you're describing comes from.
Yeah, no, I love that. So I know that you're busy with your online retreats, which, by the way, I want to make sure that people can get a hold of you. So this is the best way for them to reach out and check out and see what you have. There you go. Oh, that didn't look good. No, no thumbs down.
Yeah. People can go check out what I've got. I have lots of different offerings. I've been out of the monastery now since 2013. And when I left, I hit the ground running. I wanted to share everything I could. So they would have plenty of things to read there. I think every chapter from all of my books is somewhere on my website. So if you had the time, you could read all of it instead of, you don't have to pick anything up. I have a meditation workshop you can do there. People can learn more about the online retreats. There's only one that people can actually sign up for right now because there are consecutive. They're structured so that when you finish heart-to-heart compassionate self-mentoring, you move into help yourself to change, and the help yourself to change moves into your practice, which takes Zen principles and applies them into your life. So if people wanted to spend 90 days going deep and learning more about themselves, and it's a consistent day after day practice, then wow, that's that like what we talked about earlier, creating the support structure for yourself so that there's this foundation for yourself in life, so that life does whatever it does and you're not left off balance. That's a wonderful wonderful thing to spend your time doing. We talked about the monsters, like there's no better game in town. It's, you're talking about your life, right? It's like, and your experience of it. And at the end of the day, that's really what we're talking about. When we're going for all of these things out in the world, they're all in service to give us a particular experience, and how freeing it would be to have that experience be non-negotiable and not conditional to what is happening externally. So.
No, I love that. And, you helped me because I was really stuck in this box that I'd created for myself. And, it's kind of funny. It's kind of like the more that you jump out of something, the more you see you need to jump even more. Like
that's what I appreciated about you so much. So I'll just put a plug in for you. You're one of the most enthusiastic, daring, like if there's somebody who says that she's going to do something and then goes, you just went out and did it. I mean, like, no, literally, like I still remember our first conversations, it was around, you said, like, if you see something, if I have a belief system, I want you to knock it out of the water. You were the only one grabbing me by the collar and saying, I want to get this out of it. And, that's just remarkable. And so, I don't know where I was going with that. I know you said something that reminded me about how you showed up and the passion you bring to everything that you do.
Well, it's interesting too, because something that I've noticed is that it's a ripple effect. And I keep talking about this all the time, but it's a ripple effect. Like by me making a certain choice, it affects everybody out. And then, all of a sudden, I'm going to school now. 3 other people decide to go to school because they see that they can do it.
Yes.
So I love that. I love that effect. And, and plus that momentum gets going, and then you're making better. It makes it easier to make healthier choices. It's kind of like if I were to go to the gym and work out for an hour, the last thing I'm going to go do is eat a donut.
Right.
I want my smoothie or, whatever, something like that. But,
but you're a good role model for that, right? Like it takes somebody to show, it's like, what I said earlier is that you don't tell people what to do. It's your example that kind of leads the way for others because somebody who's not dialed in would say, okay, well now I deserve the donut. I mean, isn't there a commercial like, you deserve a break today or something like that? And it's it's all geared toward that. I did this horrible thing. Now I get something good. And, like that's what you're shifting with all of this is it's seeing through the lie that the horrible thing isn't the horrible thing, and the really good thing isn't the really good thing. And awareness shines the light in order for us to be able to make conscious choices. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. Keep doing that for as long as you need. And then when somebody comes along who is successfully created something, like you asked about the ritual and, doing a daily practice. Well, that's because it's worked for you. And now, people are like, you walk around with this twinkle, and then people start to ask, hey, what are you doing? There's something obviously working for you. I want a little of that. Right? We used to tell that to people at the monastery. It's like, you don't have to force anybody in your life to come do the retreat or meditate or anything like that. You can just twinkle wherever you go. And then people will be like, I want some of that. And then that's the best sales person, sales effect, and that ripple effect to give people the information they need to be able to create what they want in their lives. And so that's how the smoothie works, is that it's happened for you. I'm not sure if there was a role model for you who said that that's a really good thing to do to take care of yourself, but when you do it, then the person who sees you and trusts you and likes you and wants your twinkle will start doing it too, right? And then anyway.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I just have to acknowledge something that happened while you were talking.
Did you have a donut? Did you sneak a donut while I was talking?
My earring, it came flying out, and I managed to hit it, and it went flying off. So anybody that's watching, I'm aware.
You're aware that your earring was on one side. You might have created a fashion trend. Talk about like a ripple effect. You're going to watch all these people walking down the street with one earring.
One earring. I know.
That probably happened. That was during my era.
Oh, that's so funny. But there's something too that that you're saying about that, and that's also where comparison can be helpful too. We're like, okay, I want that, and I don't have that, so
beautifully put. Yes, exactly. I want that. I don't know why what I'm doing right now isn't working. I find out that this is what this person is doing. It seems to be working for them. Let me give it a try. That spirit of adventure and curiosity and loving to learn is just the best.
Something that my spiritual mentor taught me that I think is really, it took me a while to grasp, but him and his wife, there's two of them. They always say something to the effect of, don't ever do something because you have to, as in going to the spiritual gathering on Sunday or meditation or praying, because you'll get to a point where you want to do that and it's not a chore. And it's true. I mean, it does take some of it, especially meditation, takes the practice of, being consistent, like you mentioned. But, as soon as I let go of having to do things, all of a sudden I wanted to do them.
Yes. Yeah. Well, that's back to our social conditioning. So when we were little, we were told what to do. And so that's why advice giving and telling people what to do just really doesn't work, because the final authority people are going to be listening to is the one in their own head. And it's saying, don't tell me what to do. I'm in charge of this human. If this human wants to, have a donut instead of a shake, by golly, I'm going to have a donut. Screw you. I mean, that's really what's going on. And so that's why, and you probably know this since you work with people one-on-one, and that if it's their idea, that if they argue for what they want, so you say you want to lose weight, okay, how does a donut fit into that? And no, I mean, it's like, if they argue for, oh, it really doesn't, or it has this many calories, and if I need to burn like that, the math just doesn't work. So for them to see it, that's way more powerful than for you to, I don't know, be told or give your wisdom off to anybody else. It's like, Well,
people don't want to, nobody wants to be told what to do.
No,
that's very true.
They don't. And at the same time, I want to go back to the distinction between who you authentically are and the voices. And so while half of me is like, yeah, you don't have to do the meditation practice. You don't really need to do it. You don't have to go to this spiritual gathering. You don't have to. I need people to be really clear about which they're talking about, right?
Yes.
So,
yes.
Because, right?
Yes,
only the voice would say that you need to force yourself to go there, or that good people do this, or
making it mean something.
Yeah, and sometimes just I wish change was easy, but because I know how the voices work and they're very threatened by anything being different. There's a very popular expression in spirituality, which is, go with the flow, do what feels right. And I argue with people about this all the time, is because the voices are just not supportive of the human breaking out of a box and choosing something different. And so sometimes it's not going to feel really good. As a matter of fact, a lot of times it's not going to be completely rewarding or something that you're naturally drawn to.
Yeah.
Think back, like learning a new instrument, or new language, or trying something that you're not familiar how to do in front of a bunch of other people. The voices are just going to make that whole thing miserable. Like, oh, I've been playing this instrument for so long. Can I play something else other than Mary Had a Little Lamb? It's just, they're going to constantly make the experience unpleasant and unpopular. And I would just encourage somebody to stick with something that they think is going to, is in their best interest, because like I said, they talk us out of doing the thing that would be helpful and into what wouldn't. That's why it's so much easier to reach for the addiction of choice than it is to do something like attend a spiritual gathering, meditate. And I want people to hear me say that you should. I'm saying that it's not going to feel awesome the first time you do it. It's not natural at first. It's not gonna be, you're not gonna have a little enlightenment. It's not supposed to. Nothing in life has ever been that way. I don't have any evidence that life is supposed to be easy and all of that. So anyway, I just needed to throw my 2 cents into that, because
no, that's important. It's important. I'm glad that you mentioned that, because it's true. It's like when I'm talking about that, I mean, all of a sudden the real me comes through more and just takes charge. And the real me is like, I want this. I don't care if it's slightly uncomfortable. I really want this.
Because you've seen the reward on the other side. Yes, because you've seen the reward on the other side. That's really it. The satisfaction of going through the resistance and seeing that there's treasure on the other side. I talk about spiritual practices like this map that we're drawing and we're discovering, and we're looking and finding out where all of the landmines are. And we're also discovering where all of the treasure is. And that's the game of it all.
I love that. Well, on that note, we are out of time. And
how did it happen?
So much for coming back and joining us and sharing your wisdom and your thoughts, because I appreciate you, and I know the audience will as well.
Oh, thank you, Julie.
Thank you, Alex.
I appreciate you for inviting me.
Anytime.
It's nice to see you.
Good to see you. Isn't he awesome? I'm so glad we got to see his doggy too. Anyway, I just want to say goodnight, and we will see you on Monday.